My boyfriend got me a luck-stealing doll, so he could chase after the campus beauty. Everything I worked so hard for would be transferred to her. Without lifting a finger, she went from a slacker to a top student, got into grad school, her family struck it rich, and she had it all in love and her career. Meanwhile, I studied my heart out but my grades plummeted. My family went bankrupt, and before long, I collapsed and died from exhaustion. I opened my eyes again on the day my boyfriend gave me that viral doll. My boyfriend said, "Candy, we're going to get married and have kids someday. Think of this doll as our daughter. You have to take good care of her, okay? Take good care of it, so it can suck away all my good luck." I took a pair of scissors, snipped off its leg, and kicked it into a stinking ditch. A daughter? Get real. From now on, I'm the one you'll be answering to. Candy, look. I managed to snag this limited edition doll for you. It's the only one in the world. It cost me tens of thousands of dollars. That familiar voice rang in my ears. When I came to, I was staring at Nathan's face, a face I had grown to despise. When I saw the doll in his hands, I couldn't stop my fists from clenching. In my past life, this very luck-stealing doll was the end of my entire family. Seeing it again now, I wanted nothing more than to set it on fire. Seeing my lack of reaction, Nathan's heart skipped a beat. He asked tentatively, "Candy, what's wrong? Don't you like the doll I bought you?" He even put on a hurt and wounded act. I snapped back to reality, snatched the doll from his arms, and looked it up and down. I squished its face and pinched its arms. "What is this? This doll costs tens of thousands? Nathan, did you get scammed?" But Nathan wasn't even listening to me. His eyes were glued to the doll in my hands. He reached out, trying to grab it back. His eyes were filled with anxiety, and his tone was slightly scolding. "Hey, Candy, be careful. Don't hurt her." He was so tense, you'd think I was holding a person, not a doll. A person. Suddenly, my gaze fixed on the doll. This doll looked about 80% like the campus beauty, Lola. If I hadn't known from my past life that this was Lola's effigy, I would never have guessed a simple doll could bring my family to ruin. I stared at the doll in my hands and immediately put on a stern face. What's that supposed to mean? It's a doll. How could I hurt it? Why do I get the feeling you're so anxious about this doll? Hearing my question, Nathan blinked, looking guilty. Then he took my hand with a fawning expression. "My dearest Candy, I'm not worried about the doll. I'm just worried that if it gets damaged, it would be such a shame, you know? After all, it's the only one of its kind in the world." Listening to Nathan, I could only laugh to myself. If my soul hadn't lingered around you too after I died in my last life, I never would have uncovered your disgusting scheme. The better I treated this doll, the luckier Lola became, and the more miserable my family's fate was. Conversely, if I treated the doll poorly, Lola's luck would turn sour. In my past life, Nathan tricked me. "Candy, we're going to build a family and have children one day. Let's pretend this doll is our first child, to practice for when we have our own." At the time, I was so shy and thrilled, thinking Nathan wanted to be with me forever. And just as he wished, I carried that doll everywhere, never letting it go, truly treating it like my own daughter. I bought it clothes, accessories, even a tiny gold locket. But the more expensive the gifts I bought for it, the better I treated it, the worse my family's luck became. Eventually, my family went bankrupt, my brother committed suicide, my parents died in a car crash, and I leaped from the top of a tall building. Since fate has given me a second chance, I will most certainly take good care of this doll in my arms. I'll let you two get a taste of what it's like to lose everything. He called it a global limited edition, and in a way, it was. A doll that was an 80% match for Lola was certainly one of a kind, especially with her birth date and time sewn into the back. I composed myself and put on a deeply moved expression. "Honey, you're so good to me. Tens of thousands of dollars. And you just bought it like it was nothing." And Nathan, completely shameless, took the credit. "It's nothing. As long as it's something you want, Candy, I'll do whatever it takes to get it for you." I sneered internally. He wanted me dead but had to put on this act of deep affection. He despised me to his core but had to play this part for Lola's sake. And this play had been running for 3 years. Nathan and I met in a club 3 years ago. I was on my period and wasn't paying attention. He discreetly helped me out, lending me his jacket. One thing led to another, we got to know each other, and we got together. Later, since both our families were in business, mine being the larger company, our families had some business dealings over the past 2 years. I thought he was good to me because he loved me. In reality, he was just building up my trust, all for the sake of giving me Lola's effigy doll today. Speaking of Lola, the campus beauty, I barely interacted with her in my past life. I just knew she was gorgeous, but that was about it. And that was precisely why the two of them came up with the idea of a luck-stealing doll. They funneled all of my family's good fortune into Lola. My family was destroyed, while Lola flourished in her career and love life. The guaranteed spot in the grad program that was supposed to be mine mysteriously went to her. My family went bankrupt, and hers won the lottery. My brother died, and right after, her mother got pregnant with a second child. And my so-called boyfriend knew all along that this doll in my arms was the cause of it all. He kept tempting me to be even nicer to it. The day my parents had their car crash was the day those two bastards officially announced their relationship to the world. I watched as Lola, dressed in a princess gown, stood next to a 2-meter-tall cake Nathan had ordered for her. Nathan held a diamond ring, knelt on one knee, and proposed. And I was like a clown, completely played by them, with no idea what was really going on. He didn't even bother to break up with me. He probably figured I wouldn't be alive much longer, so there was no point. That's right, I didn't jump from that building willingly. It was like some magical force was compelling me to do it. It was because my obsession was so strong, my resentment so deep, that my spirit lingered around them. Only then did I learn the truth about the luck-stealing doll. At that thought, a vicious glint flashed in my eyes. I looked up at Nathan, my eyes crinkling into a smile. Since this doll is a token of your affection and so expensive, I will definitely take care of her as if she were my own daughter. Hearing this, Nathan nodded eagerly. Yes, yes, yes. Candy, that's exactly what I mean. Treat her like our daughter, like she's our first child. Ugh, our first child? Could you be any more disgusting? But I knew that no matter how sick I felt, I couldn't show it right now. Before I could say anything else, Nathan pulled a set of clothes and a jewelry set for the doll out of another bag. He excitedly laid them out in front of me. Candy, since we're raising her like our child, let's dress her up now. I knew this was Nathan's compliance test. In my past life, this was the only outfit he ever bought for the doll. Everything else was bought with my money. Because only things bought with my money and used on the doll could complete the luck transfer effect. Nathan carefully dressed the doll, every movement flawless, as if he were afraid of hurting it. Especially when his hand brushed against the doll's body, his ears turned red unconsciously. I knew from years of habit that this was a sign of him being aroused. Looking back at the doll, my stomach churned. Was he actually picturing this doll as Lola herself? The thought of it made the man in front of me seem not just malicious, but filthy and vile. Finally, after his meticulous styling, the doll looked even more charming. I looked at the doll before me and suddenly wanted to mess with him. I pretended to study the doll, frowning thoughtfully. Nathan, of course, noticed my strange behavior and asked, puzzled, Candy, why are you looking at the doll like that? Is something wrong? I feigned confusion and said, why do I feel like this doll looks so much like someone? The moment I said it, I felt Nathan's body go rigid with tension. To hide his panic, he could only force a laugh. Haha, that's nothing strange. Dolls are meant to look like people. What else would they look like? Really? Of course. Seeing him try so hard to hide it finally made me feel a little better. I then took the doll from his hands and said against my will, she's so beautiful. But in Nathan's blind spot, I was digging my nails into the doll's lower back. Nathan thought I had truly accepted the doll, and finally dared to voice his idea. Candy, from now on, you're the doll's mother, and I'm the doll's father. You have to be good to our daughter. I'll be doing spot checks, you know. I gave him a smile that didn't reach my eyes. Of course. I guarantee I'll treat her better than my own. After Nathan left, I immediately took a pair of scissors to the doll's clothes, and then tossed it into a bucket of water. A daughter? Get real. From now on, I'm the one you'll be answering to. 2 days later, Nathan rushed over to find me, immediately laying into me the moment he saw me. Candy, What did you do to the doll? I put on a confused look. The doll? The doll's fine. But Nathan couldn't be bothered with my excuses. He pushed past me and went to find Lola's effigy doll. It wasn't until he saw the meticulously dressed doll sitting safely on the headboard that he let out a quiet sigh of relief. When he came to his senses, he realized his reaction had been a bit over the top. I just stood by the door, watching him quietly. He slowly turned around and looked at me awkwardly. He rushed over to my side, feigning concern. Candy, I'm sorry about just now. I was too emotional. I've been having nightmares these past 2 days, dreaming that our doll was being tortured. That's why I lost control and acted that way toward you. I didn't mean it. I just walked right past him and said sarcastically, I had no idea this doll was more important to you than I am. Nathan was clearly taken aback by my words. He cursed under his breath. Of course she's more important than you. This is Lola's effigy doll. Then a wave of confusion hit him. Why isn't anything bad happening to Candy? Instead, Lola's been saying she feels sore all over, like she's been beaten up. As he was trying to figure it out, his gaze fell on the doll's clothes. He noticed the doll was still wearing the clothes he had bought for it 2 days ago. Candy hadn't spent any money on the doll yet, and his face instantly turned cold. But remembering he still needed this woman to provide for the doll, he had no choice but to swallow his anger. He put on a regretful look and came to my side. Candy, please forgive me this one time. I was just anxious because I really do see this doll as our child. I'm already in character, but you're not paying enough attention to our daughter, he said, picking up the doll. Look, just look, the doll's clothes haven't been changed in 2 days. I replied, exasperated. Do dolls need their clothes changed every day? To my surprise, Nathan got extremely agitated at my words. Candy, how can you say that? If we're raising it like a child, we have to treat it like it's alive. What child doesn't get their clothes changed every day? Sure, a living child can have their clothes changed every day, but this luck-stealing doll deserves to be torn to shreds. To keep Nathan from getting suspicious, I put on a pouty voice and said, all right, I already bought her a bunch of clothes. I just hadn't gotten around to changing her yet before you burst in. With that, I laid out 4 outfits, red, green, yellow, and blue, in front of him. See, which color looks best? Let's change her now. Seeing the row of clothes on the table, Nathan finally relaxed. It seemed he had been worrying for nothing. As long as he could coax Candy into changing the doll's clothes, the luck transfer ritual would be complete. At that thought, he suddenly became excited. Then let's hurry up and change her, Candy. With our daughter's looks, she'll look good in any color. Humph, he's still so confident in the campus beauty's appearance. I played along and helped him dress the doll. He grinned, looking incredibly smug. Just then his phone rang. When he answered the call, the smile on Nathan's face instantly froze. He looked at me with wide, disbelieving eyes. How is that possible? How did you get hurt? But. He lowered his voice, glanced at me guiltily, and quickly walked over to the door. Okay, don't worry, I'm on my way. After hanging up, he turned to me anxiously. Candy, a friend of mine is in trouble. I have to go to the hospital. I immediately grabbed his arm. Is it serious? Should I go with you? He hesitated at my offer, but then his eyes fell on the nearby doll, and he could only nod. Okay. At the hospital, Lola was lying weakly in bed. The doctor said she had a broken leg. The moment Lola saw me, she was a little flustered. She hadn't expected me to come with Nathan. I watched them exchange glances. I didn't need words to know they were both wondering why the luck-stealing doll hadn't worked. Just then my phone rang too. I answered it right in front of them. Then, my voice filled with panic, and tears started to well up. What? How could this happen? Are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Seeing my panicked expression, Nathan and Lola exchanged a look. A triumphant glint flashed in both their eyes. After hanging up, I slumped onto the edge of the hospital bed in defeat. The movement was a bit too forceful, making Lola wince in pain. But they couldn't be bothered with that right now. Nathan immediately asked, Candy, did something happen? My eyes were red as I choked out, Nathan, my guaranteed spot in the grad program is gone. I worked for 3 years for that spot. I covered my face and started to sob, afraid I wouldn't be able to keep up the act otherwise. Through the gaps in my fingers, I saw the two of them share a smile. Go ahead and laugh. Laugh while you still can, because dead people can't smile. Nathan's struggle to suppress his grin was particularly disgusting. Still, he feigned concern and tried to comfort me. It's okay, Candy. We'll just try again next time. Next time, my foot. But I kept up my devastated act. There is no next time. Then I glanced at Lola. She flinched under my gaze before my eyes moved back to Nathan. Okay, I need some space. You can stay here and take care of your friend. Without waiting for a response, I walked straight out the door. The second the door closed, I heard them exclaim and high-five. Nathan's voice rang out. Lola, did you hear that? Candy's bad luck is starting. Your good luck is about to begin. But Lola sounded a little worried. Nathan, even if Candy is having bad luck, it's not like I'm having any good luck either. What's the rush? This is just the beginning. I'll make sure all of Candy's luck gets transferred to you. Listening to those two shameless people plotting against me, a smirk curved my lips. Is that so? Well then, let's just wait and see. Just as I reached the door of my rental apartment, a tall figure blocked my path. Everywhere I moved, he moved. Finally, I lost my patience. Excuse me, sir. But the man didn't budge. Staring up at the man who was a head taller than me, my heart began to race, and I balled my fists defensively. The man just patted my head. Hey, short stuff. You don't recognize me? I finally looked up and saw a man with a devilishly handsome face, a look of confusion on my own. The man was not pleased. Hey, short stuff, it's me, Quinn. The older kid from next door to your grandma's house. I was stunned and blurted out, the chubby kid. He smacked me on the forehead again. No manners. Call me by my name. I rolled my eyes, speechless. What was this guy doing here? We hadn't seen each other since we were 12. My mom said his family was into some unusual stuff, that they'd studied mystical arts for generations. A lot of things in the neighborhood that science couldn't explain were brought to his family to solve. I didn't believe it before, but after being reborn and dealing with a luck-stealing doll, I couldn't help but be cautious. But Quinn completely ignored my defensive posture and casually threw an arm around my shoulder. Don't just stand there, open the door. I had no choice but to let him in. I have no idea how this chubby kid grew up to be so outgoing. He was making himself right at home. The moment we stepped inside, I saw Quinn's eyes fixated on the doll on the sofa. Before I could react, he strode over to the doll in 3 quick steps, picked it up, examined it, and then chuckled. Well, Candy, you're into dolls now? To be honest, I felt a little guilty when he picked up the doll, because I wasn't sure if this guy had inherited his family's talents. Just as I was about to brush it off, his eyes narrowed, and he stared directly at my safe. Alarm bells went off in my head. That's right. The doll on the sofa was a high-quality fake I'd had someone make. The real effigy of Lola was in the safe, and it was missing a leg. I didn't know if Quinn was a friend or foe, or what his purpose was in finding me. Just as I was trying to come up with an excuse to get rid of him, he suddenly went back to his normal, carefree self. He started fiddling with the doll clothes on the table. So, I'm here because your mom said it was okay. I'm in town for some business, so I need to crash at your place for a while. No. The word slipped out before I could think. Quinn just threw his hands up, as if he expected me to say that. He immediately called my mom, and I have no idea what he said to her, but she basically ordered me over the phone to let him stay. I had no choice but to comply. But late at night, I would still sneak out Lola's real effigy and torture it. Until one night, as I was pouring water into the doll, Quinn appeared behind me without a sound. You hate this doll that much? I screamed, startled, then quickly composed myself. I tried to sound nonchalant. So what if I hate it? It's my doll. I can do whatever I want with it. I thought he would scold me for being cruel, or think I was a psychopath. But he didn't say anything. He just stared at the broken doll and gave a wicked smile. Things you don't like should just disappear. I stared at him in shock, and he leaned down to look me in the eye. What's wrong? So surprised? You don't think I'm cruel? He let out a self-deprecating laugh. For every action, there is a reaction. This isn't cruelty. At most, it's just the cycle of karma, a well-deserved retribution. I swallowed hard. It felt like this guy knew everything. A week later, Nathan came looking for me, furious and agitated. The moment he saw me, he demanded, "Candy, have you been taking care of that doll or not?" Seeing Nathan so worked up, I felt a surge of delight. I feigned confusion. "What's wrong? I've been taking great care of it." I even proactively pulled him over to see the doll on the sofa. "Look, not only have I changed its clothes, but I've also bought it lots of trendy jewelry. Look how dazzling our daughter is." I deliberately emphasized the word daughter. Seeing the perfect-looking doll, Nathan's anger dissipated completely. He just kept muttering to himself, "Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it." It turned out that over the past few days, Lola's leg hadn't gotten better. In fact, it had gotten worse and was now gangrenous. The doctors were saying it had to be amputated. And today, Lola's family had called to say her father had accidentally put her mother in the hospital. Lola couldn't handle the chain of disasters and sent Nathan to find me. "You can't handle it this early?" In my last life, my family lost 4 living, breathing people. Watching the bewildered Nathan, a wicked idea popped into my head. I suppressed my disgust and grabbed Nathan's hand, whining coquettishly, "Nathan, I know you're so worried about the doll. You must think our daughter is too lonely. Why don't you buy a boy doll to bring home? Then we'll have a son and a daughter." Nathan's eyes lit up at my suggestion. "That's right. If Lola can have a luck-siphoning doll, so can I. It's all at the expense of Candy's family's luck anyway. It's free for the taking. For my and Lola's future happiness." His gaze then fell on the doll that looked like Lola, and he thought to himself, "Could it be that one doll for Lola is working too slowly? Do we need both of us?" At that thought, Nathan slapped his thigh and stood up. "Yes. Candy, you're so thoughtful. I'll go buy a boy doll right now." Watching him leave, my eyes felt like they were filled with 1,000 years of ice. I was dying to see which master came up with such a malicious scheme for you too. Anyone who harmed my family in my past life will not escape. I secretly followed Nathan to a rundown temple in the mountains. Before long, I saw a masked figure holding a doll, giving Nathan a stream of instructions. I wanted to get a little closer to see what this masked person looked like. Suddenly, a hand clamped over my mouth from behind. I panicked, but when I got a good look, I saw it was Quinn. Quinn put a finger to my lips, signaling me to be quiet. It wasn't until the masked figure went back into the temple that I dared to breathe freely again. "Quinn, what are you doing here?" Quinn brushed the dust off his clothes and gave me a playful look. "If you can be here, why can't I? Besides, I'm here on official business. What are you doing here?" I was at a loss for words. I couldn't very well tell him I was here because I was stalking Nathan. Seeing my predicament, Quinn's lips curved into a smile. "All right, I calculated that this place has a deep, dark energy, that someone was up to no good, so I came to investigate." Hearing him say that didn't make me happy, it made me even more wary of him. So he had learned all of his family's skills. Did that mean he knew about the luck-stealing doll in my apartment? If he knew, why didn't he tell me? But then again, we weren't related, just childhood playmates. There was no obligation for him to help. Besides, in this life, I already knew how to break the curse. Just then my phone rang. The caller ID showed Nathan. I couldn't help but laugh at the irony. He was certainly impatient. Truthfully, I was even more anxious than he was. As much as I enjoyed torturing Lola's effigy, I was far more excited to get my hands on Nathan's. In my past life, I learned after I died that the Gu family played a significant role in my family's bankruptcy. They deliberately delayed payments and cut off our supply chain. Because of me, my parents trusted the Gu family, but they were just using my family as a stepping stone to climb higher. So after my family's company went bankrupt, they reaped plenty of benefits in the shadows. Sure enough, I wasn't even home yet when Nathan had already called me twice to hurry up. His voice was filled with unconcealed excitement. When I got to my door, I saw him waiting there, holding his own effigy doll. Seeing me, he rushed forward to show off his doll. "Candy, look. Doesn't this doll look just like me? Let me tell you, this was incredibly hard to get. This is all for you." Once I opened the door, he made a beeline for Lola's doll. He then placed his doll next to hers. His eyes were full of admiration. "They're a perfect match." I smiled sweetly and agreed, "Absolutely perfect." Hearing my voice, a thought crossed Nathan's mind. He pulled me by the hand to sit down next to the two dolls. Candy, I'm entrusting both of these dolls to you. You can't play favorites. You have to treat them both the same. Be good to both of them. I looked him in the eye and suddenly let out a laugh. I'm just curious, if we ever break up, would you want the girl doll or the boy doll? Nathan didn't expect me to ask that, and he froze for a moment. When he recovered, his face darkened, and he looked displeased. Candy, what are you talking about? We're never going to break up. Right, we won't break up. In my past life, even after you proposed to Lola, you never broke up with me. Because you were just waiting to watch me walk toward the fatal end you so carefully planned. Dead people don't need a breakup speech. At that thought, hatred grew wildly inside me. I dug my fingernails into my palms to force myself to calm down. I could only put on a playful act. I'm just teasing you. Hearing me say that, Nathan finally managed a smile. Well then, let's go buy some things for the dolls now. Okay. But before we even reached the mall, Nathan got a call from the hospital and had to leave in a rush. As he left, he didn't forget to remind me to buy new clothes for the dolls. I said yes, but the moment he was gone, I turned around and went straight home. I grabbed a pair of scissors and stabbed them right into the lower half of Nathan's effigy doll. TSK, that's a rather delicate spot you chose to stab. A sudden voice made me jump, and the scissors clattered to the floor. I turned around. Who else could it be but Quinn? I said irritably, you're like a ghost, sneaking around without making a sound. Quinn pouted, looking wronged. You were the one so focused on stabbing the doll. Now you're blaming me for being quiet. Fine, I admit I was a little too excited. At that thought, I kicked Nathan's doll several feet away in a fit of pique. Well, sorry then. It's the doll's fault. Quinn just gave Nathan's doll a deep, dark look, then picked it up. He casually stuck a paper charm to its forehead. Seeing his action, I instinctively yelled out, "What are you doing?" Quinn just explained calmly, "It's nothing. This is a pain amplification charm. It means for every 1 bit of pain the doll feels, he'll feel 10. Hearing him say that, the hand that was about to rip off the charm suddenly froze. But I still said stubbornly, "I don't know what you're talking about." Just then, the hospital called to tell me something had happened to Nathan. When Quinn and I arrived at the hospital, we could hear Nathan's pig-like squeals of pain. According to the nurses, Lola's father, who had massive gambling debts, came to the hospital to demand money from her. Lola's mother was also laid up in the hospital, racking up huge bills. Lola herself had no money. She had always been supported by men who admired her. Plus, after her leg injury, every day felt like living hell. All those admirers had disappeared, leaving only Nathan. When Lola's father heard there was no money, he immediately caused a scene in the hospital. He even ignored Lola's current injuries, dragging her from the bed to the floor and beating her. This was the scene Nathan walked in on. He went straight for Lola's father, and they started fighting. But he was no match for Lola's dad, who sent him flying several feet with a single kick. And the place he kicked was right between Nathan's legs. That's why he was screaming so miserably when we arrived. And with all the commotion from her father, Lola's leg had gotten much worse. It had to be amputated. Lola couldn't accept this and fainted on the spot. Lola's father was taken away by the police. Hearing this string of good news, I really couldn't control the smile on my face. But when I turned my head, I saw a faint, knowing smile playing on Quinn's lips as well. I thought I must be seeing things. I was smiling out of the thrill of revenge, but what was he smiling about? Nathan's squeals continued. Suddenly, I remembered the pain amplification charm and shuddered. Quinn suddenly said in a sarcastic tone, "Why don't you go in and see your boyfriend?" I wanted to retort, "Your boyfriend?" But then I remembered, he technically was my boyfriend right now. A stain on my life. I had no choice. To save Nathan's life, I authorized the doctors to remove his family jewels. And to make sure this wretched pair got a taste of the despair I felt in my past life, I thoughtfully had them put in the same hospital room. My reason was that it would be more convenient for me to take care of them. One without a leg, the other without his legs, so to speak. I wonder what their faces will look like when they wake up. Just as I expected, the hospital room was filled with a symphony of screams. alternating between a female soprano and a male tenor. And let me tell you, to my ears, it was heavenly music. I saw Nathan ripping the blanket off and then pulling it back on, over and over, unable to accept that he had become a eunuch. On the other side, Lola wasn't doing any better, crying and shouting, "My leg! My leg!" I pushed the door open and walked in. The moment Nathan saw me, he ignored the pain in his body and stumbled towards me. He gripped my shoulders, unwilling to accept reality. "Candy, tell me, what happened to me? What happened? You don't know what happened to your own body. Do you need me to spell it out for you? You're a eunuch." I avoided his gaze and choked out, "Nathan, it was to save your life. We had no other choice." "No. No." Nathan shoved me away and screamed, clutching his head. Then, as if he remembered something, he frantically begged me for confirmation. "The dolls. What about the 2 dolls?" I feigned confusion. "The dolls? They're fine, they're at my place." Hearing the word dolls, Lola, in the other bed, snapped to attention. Her eyes, fixed on me, were like poison daggers. "What did you do to the dolls?" I looked from Lola to Nathan, feigning bewilderment. "What could I do? I dressed them in nice things, decked them out in gold and silver." Lola lost control and shrieked, "I don't believe you. You were supposed to be the one bearing all of this. That doll was supposed to." Slap. The sound echoed through the room. Nathan had slapped Lola. "Shut up." Lola's eyes widened in disbelief that Nathan would hit her. Before she could say another word, Nathan grabbed my hand and pleaded, "Candy, I miss our daughter and son. Can you bring the 2 dolls to the hospital to keep me company?" I knew Nathan didn't trust me and wanted to see the dolls for himself. I readily agreed. They were just 2 fakes. If they wanted them, they could have them. When I brought the 2 dolls to the hospital, Nathan frantically inspected every inch of them, finding them still perfect. He simply couldn't understand why he and Lola had ended up like this. Suddenly, Lola answered a phone call, let out a scream and fainted. Before Nathan could even check on Lola, his own phone rang. After answering the call, he collapsed weakly to the floor. It was his mother. His family was bankrupt, and they owed money to loan sharks. His father couldn't handle the pressure and had run away, leaving his mother to tell him to figure something out fast. Lola's call had been from the hospital. Her mother had passed away. Nathan clutched the doll in his arms, unable to believe any of this was real. Suddenly, he shot up, grabbed my arm, his eyes filled with madness. "Quick, call your parents. See if anything has happened to your family." I shoved him off. "Nathan, what's your problem? Just because your family is in trouble, you're hoping mine is too? And after I've been so good to you, we're done. Let's break up." Hearing me say I wanted to break up, Nathan looked even more incredulous. "You want to break up with me? Why haven't you had any bad luck yet?" "No, something has to be wrong." Suddenly, he seemed to remember something. "Didn't you fail to get into the grad program?" I waved my hand dismissively. "So I failed. I applied to study abroad instead." What he didn't know was that I had intentionally given up the spot to mislead them. That one sentence was the final straw. He ignored the doctor's protests and insisted on taking Lola to the rundown temple to find the mysterious person and get to the bottom of this. What they didn't know was that Quinn was in the process of performing a ritual to burn the 2 real luck-stealing dolls. Unsurprisingly, they got into a car accident on the way and both perished in the fiery crash. In a way, it was revenge for my parents from my past life. I thought things were finally over, but Quinn took me to that rundown temple. Quinn told me that as he was making the 2 dolls disappear, the person who performed the spell would also suffer a backlash. I was also curious about the identity of this masked person. When we arrived at the temple, the smell of blood hung in the air. A woman was lying on the ground, vomiting blood uncontrollably. I walked closer and finally saw her face clearly. I gasped in shock. "Auntie Jean." When she saw that I was still alive, her eyes filled with resentment. "I never thought you'd be so much smarter than your mother." At this point, what was there left not to understand? This woman was behind everything. I couldn't understand why my mother's best friend would want to harm us like this. "Auntie Jean, can you tell me why you did this? My mother was so good to you. Why would you harm our family?" "Good to me? That was just charity. I was always smarter and prettier than her growing up, So why did she get to marry so well, while I married an abusive man? I won't accept it. I refuse to accept it. Suddenly, her gaze fell on Quinn. She pointed at him, full of grief and anger. It was a perfect plan. It was you. Because of you. With that, she stopped breathing. Quinn just said, "Those who live by wickedness will die by wickedness." My gaze then fell on Quinn, and I asked the question I'd been wanting to ask but never dared. In my past life, why didn't you show up? My question made Quinn's eyes turn red. He tried to hug me, but I dodged him. That's right. Besides my rebirth, the only variable in this life was Quinn. Seeing me so guarded, Quinn just said in a low voice, "I'm sorry, I was too late." Much later, I overheard a conversation between Quinn and his grandfather and finally learned the truth. Was it worth it? Using half of your own life to break that girl's deadly fate and give her a second chance? Quinn simply replied calmly it was. It turned out my rebirth wasn't an act of mercy from the heavens, but an exchange Quinn had made. I couldn't understand why a simple childhood friendship would compel him to do so much for me. Later, he put his arm around my shoulder and said, "It was love at first sight." I couldn't help it. I had a fatal destiny, and I was his destiny. He did appear in my past life, but only after I had already jumped. He said he was too late, and I don't blame him. After that, I was the one shamelessly chasing him, but the guy just wouldn't agree. He had one line. "My life may not be long. I don't want to hold you back." Eventually, I had to threaten to kill myself before he finally gave in. Who cares how long? What's most important is cherishing every day we have now. Even if he sacrificed half his lifespan, if he was meant to live to 180, that's still 90 years. I missed my chance in my last life. In this one, I don't care about any of that. Quinn, you're mine. The end.